New questions about Obamacare and why millennials may be opting out of the program. Besides website glitches, one complaint is that it forces young, healthy people to shell out cash they can't afford for coverage they don't even use to help older folks who should have money and who actually need the care. Guy Benson is a political editor at townhall.com and a Fox News contributor. And Emily Tish Sussman is a Democratic strategist. And they are my guests in studio today. Good to see you both.
Good to be here.
So this is an interesting article written by a millennial who basically, this is what she said. The problem with this plan is that it hoses young, relatively poor people like me right when we least need high bills for services that we're not using. Guy?
Well, there are a couple problems with Obamacare from the perspective of a young person. The first you referenced are the glitches, because more than any other generation, millennials tend to do almost everything they can online. And so if they're logging on to healthcare.gov and getting error messages for weeks on end, and it could be months before this stuff is fixed entirely, that's a real barrier to entry, and they might not come back. But when they do, this is the next point, which is that exorbitant cost that they're going to have to pay. The government is asking them to overpay for services, many of which they're not going to need, to subsidize the larger system, and it doesn't make financial sense for many of them to engage.
Well, Emily, doesn't this program only work if these millennials sign up, if they, in other words, pay in the money to help pay for the health care of the elderly?
Sure. I mean, the larger pool, the idea of getting everyone in together and having larger pools to offset the people that do need the cost, that do need the coverage at that moment versus some that may need it a little bit later on. I mean, that's the idea of having a larger pool. And what we actually are seeing is that young people are actually the most interested in signing up, even though there have been campaigns to prevent from signing up, tell them it's not something they need. It is something that many young people need today, particularly if they have pre-existing conditions, if they're getting pregnant, if they are pregnant. These are things they possibly do need today.
Yeah, but that's a small faction. I mean, if you're, I don't know how old the two of you are, but I know you're younger than me, so I'm considering you part of this millennial group. And
we're both millennials.
Yes, yeah. You are. So for the most part, you're healthy, right? So if you were given the choice, would you sign up?
Absolutely. I'd look around, go, once people get into healthcare.gov and they see what all of the options that are there, that's a lot of what we're seeing with the large amounts of traffic right now, is that a lot of people are going in to see the options that are there. You can compare the plans. And for most millennials, their rates are going to end up being less than $100 a month.
But you, I know, believe that this program could actually completely fall apart if young people don't sign up.
Well, it's just math. It's called a death spiral, because if you don't have enough relatively young, it's not just millennials, it's also all the way up into your mid-40s. If you have relatively young, relatively healthy people who are not overpaying, and we are seeing premiums going way up for these folks, and also out-of-pocket costs going up for these people, if they say, forget it, I'm going to wait, pay the relatively cheap tax, and then if I get sick and if I get into an accident, then the insurers have to take me because I have a pre-existing condition.
Right.
It just makes more sense to do that.
You just brought it full circle.
You know, from a dollars and cents perspective. And I mean, I'm not trying to make a political point there. I'm trying to make an economic point. And a lot of people are realizing that. And you say, oh, they're going on to look at their options. They're logging on. They're not seeing anything.